I just got the bill for my daughter's NICU stay. $738,360 freaking dollars.
But when you really break it down, her take home of that $65K is only $18,000 a year.
Here's how much it costs to have a baby in America.
So today we're going to be going over something I touched on a little bit on my cost of living video, but since then I have seen many comments like this. One thing I love to see you do is the cost of childcare. It's insane to the point that it's more than a parent would earn working if they had more than one kid who needs it. I wanted to expand on this a little bit more, the cost of everyday life with children, giving birth to them in the first place, childcare, insurance increases, grocery increases, clothing, school supplies, everything that goes into it. I'm honestly not surprised why so many people are choosing not to have children today. We're also going to go over some comments from you guys from previous videos, so if you want to be featured on a future video, leave in the comments down below. But let's start off with something that is very common now.
Have you seen the daycare costs these days? $2,200 a month for one child. I was talking to this mom at a birthday party this weekend, and she was telling me that she went and got a job for $65,000. And I was like, oh, that's really awesome, because her husband makes great money, but they wanted extra money. She said the only downside is that I need to have a nanny come Monday through Friday, and it costs me $2,200 a month. And I don't have kids, so I never even thought of that before. And you know me with my numbers, started having a conversation with her. I said, well, what's your take-home pay, if you don't mind me asking? And she said about $4,000. She goes, so that's the tough part here, is that after the daycare cost, I'm only really pocketing $1,800 a month, and then it's $300 in gas because the commute's very far. So I'm really going to work for 40 hours a week and only pocketing $1,500. So I'm wondering if I even made a mistake here, and they're trying to figure this all out. And we look at people who have a job at $65,000 or $80,000, or a couple who's making $120,000, and you're like, how can you not afford this? Like, this doesn't make sense. But when you really break it down, her take home of that $65K is only $18,000 a year.
So what happens if you have 2 or 3 kids? It turns into a comment like this. This is exactly why a lot of moms are stay-at-home moms. For us, the extra $1,500 isn't worth the lost time. I will say though, that is not an option for a good amount of people now. 2 full-time incomes are required to pay the bills, just live paycheck to paycheck. But then the downside is, if you do have children, a significant portion of your yearly income is going to be siphoned away for somebody to take care of them while you're at work. $2,200 for daycare, $2,000 for rent. Perfect. Already in the negative for the month, and I haven't even eaten yet. We have a comment from one of you guys. Childcare is ridiculously expensive. When my 2 boys aged out of daycare, it was like both my wife and I got a raise. I mean, we could just take a look at this example from this woman of the daycare cost around where she lives.
We're moving to the area in this month. I was wondering if you guys have any availability, and if so, what the cost is.
Would be $2,430.
$2,400, is that for a 12-month-old or an infant?
That would be for a 12-month-old.
Wondering what your availability looks like for full-time childcare.
Do not have a consistent spot. They're about 2.5 years old.
Okay.
2.5 right now would be our guaranteed time frame.
So she heard almost $2,500 a month, and there's barely any availability. I mean, the second one had a 1.5 year wait. You'd have to lock in a spot while you're pregnant with the kid. Some of the comments, those prices, and still no guarantee your child's safe. I quit my daycare job when I found out how much they were charging parents. People were paying $3,000 a month, and I was getting paid $15 an hour with no benefits at all. Is that $2,400 a month for one kid? Is that normal? Yes, every quote has been around that much. We have waiting lists. They start at least a year early. We have pregnant moms come view the school before the child's even born. Exactly what I just said before. Even the original creator responded, I would have had to have called this daycare before I even knew I was pregnant. Absolutely insane. Another comment from one of you guys, childcare costs is why my wife stays at home. If she worked her job, she would just be paying for them to go to daycare. Like I said before, there are many people that don't have that option. They still need 2 full-time jobs to be able to pay the bills. If you're lucky enough to have a pretty solid single income stream, maybe a work from home job or something like that, it does start sounding pretty worth it to save $2,000 a month per child, mind you. And I know the prices are all over the place depending on what state you live in the country. We have a clip up on screen here when you get a child care packet, and it's $1,600 a month for a 1-year-old. Still insanely expensive in my opinion, but I have a chart up on screen if you want to pause it to see what the costs were wherever you guys live. But daycare daycare costs by state, from 2003 to 2023, average daycare cost increased by 40%, surpassing the inflation rate of 31%. So this information is still 2 years old, so I bet everything's a little bit more expensive, but we could still look. Where I am in North Carolina is $832. Where I used to live in New Jersey is $1,400. I could see real close to that, Massachusetts is $1,700. Minnesota, $1,500. Colorado, $1,400. Colorado almost has the same prices as daycare in Hawaii, which is pretty crazy. But it also depends on where you live in each one of these states. Clearly, the examples we've already seen, $1,600, $2,000, $2,400, are way more than any of these averages, so the prices can vary widely. But let's backtrack all the way to the beginning of the child's life. We could see how much it costs to have a kid in the first place.
Here's how much it costs to have a baby in America. So we're gonna start with the ultrasound that we had to get a couple days before Aspen. So that ultrasound cost us $2,067.85. And now onto my actual hospital stay. So we stayed for just under 3 days.
So whatever the observation room is, we got charged $413.65. No clue what that is. The recovery room cost us $2,702.45. A hospital stay, I don't know how that's different, but that one cost us $4,438. The emergency room cost us $1,932.90. And I don't know what the laboratory is either, but that cost us an additional $1,439.20.
All of these costs are ringing out thousands of dollars at a time, and this doesn't include any of the actual labor, giving birth to the child. This is absolutely insane to me.
But then we go into labor and delivery. So this one is the one where I would expect it to be the most expensive because that's clearly why we're there. We got charged $10,593.40 for that one.
I know I keep butting into this clip, but I just want to say that cost alone is the price I paid for the car that I'm currently driving. A 2015 Civic I paid $10,500 for, and that was just one single expense for them.
And then our anesthesia. So my epidural cost us more than anything else. That one was $14,446.15.
Was it worth it?
Yes. Yes. We also had a pharmacy and supply cost. So pharmacy cost $2,007.25. For supplies, $565.03. So the grand total for everything came out to $33,011.73.
But that was just for our stay. We also had to pay for Aspen, our newborn daughter, to be in the hospital.
So her hospital stay, to stay with us in the room that we also paid for, was $4,008.
Our complete hospital bill cost $37,019.73.
Luckily, we have insurance, but insurance only helps so much. So how much we have to pay out of pocket to have a baby in America is $11,558.93.
So even with insurance, they're paying almost a third of the cost. And you wonder why so many people hate insurance across the board. But if they didn't have it, they were looking at $37,000, and we're actually going to see an example later in the video. But you're talking 5 figures just to get the kid out the door and starting its life. And of course, if you start comparing it to the child cost in the past, it starts getting way worse.
Raising a child in 1981 in America would have cost you $300 a month to have them cared for. If you need child care for a child in America in 1981, $300 a pop. So if you had 2 kids, how much is that? $600, exactly. If we were to raise 2 kids in America today, it would cost you $1,350 a month per child. That's $2,700 over the course of 12 months. Do you know how much that is? I'll tell you, it's over 30 grand. If you want to have 2 kids in America and you want to work your full-time job like you have to in order to pay your child care, you're going to be paying a full-time person's job. So in order to have a child full-time with a career, you have to have another full-time job with a career to raise your child full-time.
Another set of these comments, it's cheaper in most cases to have one parent just stay home. And yet daycares pay their teachers $11 an hour. $14.65 for my 2-year-old every month, and there's no discount when they're closed for holiday breaks or off days. Oh man. We have a screenshot here. Salary needed to live comfortably in Tampa, Florida. Single adult, $94,432. The National national average being $93,933, and 2 working adults with 2 children. Probably the classic image that pops in your head when you think of a family, right? 2 parents, 2 kids is $209,498. Almost $20,000 a month. Another experience from one of you guys: if we had another child when we wanted to and had 2 children in childcare, it would cost us $2,400 a month. This is more than what we pay for in rent. So it's really not surprising when you see clips like this of so many people just outright refusing to have kids.
And then it's like, is it worth the trade-off?
31% don't want kids, on the fence about it because of childcare, which is a fair point because childcare costs have increased 214% since 1990, and childcare for one infant in 2020 was over 12 grand on average, $200 a week.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
And here's the deal too, because we went and we looked at different daycares, and you want the one that you feel the safest and it's the cleanest and the best. I'm like when it's your child that you're handing over. So I'm like, I understand people that pay and have to these crazy amounts for daycare, because I'm like, you do want you want the one that you feel the best, but it still has to fit within your budget. And so that's when the conversation comes in of like, okay, we need to do pros and cons on both parents working even. Because it can get to a point, depending on where you live and how much it is, that one parent's salary, that 75% of it is going to daycare. And then it's like, is it worth the trade-off, right? So you start to have those conversations.
Especially when you have more
kids. That's a hard one.
The comment section does not get much better. Where in the world do you get daycare for $200 a week? $350 a week is a deal in my not-so-big city. I was quoted $3,100 a month for 2 kids. When we have our third, we'll be paying over $2,500 a month in daycare. And another comment from you guys: daycare is so expensive, they pay the girls watching your kids minimum wage. No way I would leave my kids there. So we could go over and watch the clip that probably sparked this entire video: the cost of raising a child until they become an adult.
Raising a child in the U.S. is more expensive than ever, about $300,000 over 18 years. According to LendingTree, it breaks down to about $29,000 a year, factoring in childcare, clothing, food, health insurance premiums, and more. The biggest jump in cost: daycare, up 51% since the last report in 2023. Hawaii is the most expensive state to raise a child. The least, Mississippi. Georgia sits at 48. So how many kids do you have, and does this check out for you? Let us know.
So an extra little bit of information, because the earlier chart that I had state by state with childcare cost only went up to 2023, but this news clip is only 2 months old, and they said that daycare costs increased 51% since 2023. I mean, that sounds unbelievable to me. Did I not understand that correctly? Only 300,000? I feel like it's more. I'm one and done. And they wonder why millennials and Gen Z aren't having kids. Basically, you can only pick one: buy a house, have kids, or save for retirement. This is why I don't have kids. I'm staying child free. 300,000, it's way more, and that's one child. I grow up in a low income, poor household, and I wouldn't do that to another child. I have 2 kids. I can attest childcare is literally more expensive than a luxury 2-bedroom apartment in my area. $2,400 a month for daycare. So because of this, birthing rates are falling all over the world. And there are some pretty weird things happening to incentivize people having children.
Birth rates are falling all over the world, including in this country, and some governments are starting to panic over it and take action. So let's talk about South Korea. 42 districts there in South Korea are offering major incentives at matchmaking events. 42 of them, in fact, all over the country. And look at these bonuses they're giving. $14,000 to couples who get married. $340 just to go on dates, just to find out if you like somebody. Then housing subsidies, cash for pregnancy-related expenses, even money for international travel.
Is the pregnancy rate dropping that much?
It's like 1/3 the level just needed to maintain the population level right now. But the government matchmaking events, you have to sit down in front of somebody and look in their eyes for 10 seconds.
Okay, 10 seconds. Then what?
Then you have to have a 5-minute conversation, and then you all play bingo and have dinner.
The longer I think about it, the weirder this sounds to me. It's almost like the dystopian stories in the future where we're almost borderline robots and everything's just off. And I'm pretty sure there are tax breaks in the US as well for having children, but I believe it's only $3,000 or $5,000, and clearly that's nowhere near the cost of actually raising a child from year to year. So, I mean, I guess it's better than nothing, but I don't think it's really going to help the birthing rates increase, especially when we get full examples like this. How much I spent this week as a mom of 4 kids. 1 week.
People are constantly saying that kids are expensive, but they never elaborate on what that means. But we know that millennial parents and Gen Z parents aren't having kids or having fewer kids because of how expensive it is. And so I'm going to share what I spent on my 4 kids this week, just to give you an idea on what people mean when they say kids are expensive. I'm going to start off with a big ticket item. It is childcare. I have 4 children, and so that is more than the average family. So I will break it down per kid for you so you understand the full cost. So my 2 youngest kids, who are 3 and 4, they are in full-time daycare. They're in a preschool room and a pre-K room. It is $78 per day per child. And so for the 2 of them to attend full-time 5 days a week, it is $780 a week. Now, I also have 2 older kids. They are 7 and 8 years old, but they go to after-school care at their school. That is $45 per day per child, and so that's $450 a week. Our total is $1,230 for childcare per week for our 4 kids.
You're talking $5,000 a month just for that. Oh, it's not going to get any better. That was just the start of it, too.
Now let's check groceries. We spend anywhere between like $275 to $350 a week on groceries, give or take. This week it was actually $355. I don't really know why. Sometimes it's more expensive if we run out of things like ketchup or whatever. I also went to Costco this week to return something, but when I was there, I got more food for my kids that we had run out of, and so I spent $98 at Costco. Sticking with food for a second, I spent $45 on school lunch this week. I did $30 for my 2 older kids on their like lunch ticket, and then $10, so $5 each for my little girls for school pizza day. This is an annual expense, but it was my 2 oldest kids' birthdays this week. They have back-to-back birthdays, and so we spent about $200 between gifts, cake, ice cream, all the things. Now, here are some rapid-fire things that don't happen every single week, but we had to spend money on them this week. So first and foremost, a $40 copay at the doctor's for my daughter, $112 for dance recital tickets. That's for 4 tickets. I think they were $28 each, and so we have the recital on Sunday. This doesn't happen all the time, but it did happen this week. We also had to pay for dance classes this week, and so it's $50 per class. My daughters go to 3 classes. There's 3 daughters, and that's $160 with tax. So we just spent that this week. Okay, and my 2 older kids have seasonal allergies, and so I had to re-up on our allergy medicine, and that was about $26. So all in this week, we spent about $2,000 on our 4 kids. You'll notice this does not include any gas in our cars that we use to drive them around. It does not include our housing costs, our utilities, any of those things. These were just specifically kid-related expensive.
So around $8,000 a month, I know, give or take, because there were things that don't happen every single week, but did not include any type of bill, housing costs, utilities, internet bill, electricity, whatever. Possibly an extra $96,000 a year. Just a couple of the comments, $78 per day per child. That's what I was thinking when I heard that too. It's important to talk about the cost of childcare because it's so incredibly crucial that we address the childcare crisis. I saw another creator highlight that it's not just the cost of giving children the basics, it's the cost of giving them the life that you want for them, which just of course means even more money. But another example I didn't hear too much when it came to children is of course what we all hate, insurance increases.
I see a lot of videos about people talking about how expensive daycare is and how that's like deterring them from having kids, which I get it. It's a lot. Who's going to weigh in on the cost of insurance? Because I just found out my price per paycheck is going up like 900% just to add a child to my insurance. And that's just like not a cost that I factored into. Like obviously daycare, food, clothing, whatever, but like never thought about insurance. Actually, you know what? If you had 3 kids versus just 1, it's the same cost.
Literally, insurance is the number 2 reason why we won't have more. I'm paying $1,400 a month on my employer's insurance. It's highway robbery. And you probably still have a high out-of-pocket max per year. Insurance is a scam. That's what I was thinking. It went up 900% for her, but that doesn't mean that now the doctor's visits are free. Like we saw with the clip before, almost $37,000 to give birth. They had insurance and still had to pay $11,000, $700 a month on employers, and it's not even good insurance. Birth was $5,000. And on the previous clip in passing, she was talking about the clothing and all of that kind of miscellaneous stuff. And I just wanted to put this in because I took a photo while I was at the store. It is already back to school, even though it's barely July right now, but whatever, they have all the supplies for school, and that turns into backpacks, which this kid's version of a JanSport backpack, this was not an adult backpack, was $55. Now, if you you look at it, it is a corduroy version, and maybe people would think that's fancy, but there were a whole bunch of different colorways, a lot of plain stuff. Even the JanSport right under it, they were all $55 for a kid's backpack. And I don't really know what's cool or not anymore, but at least in my time, having a Nike or Adidas backpack was a lot cooler than JanSport. So I mean, $55 just for a kid's backpack I thought was wild. But we could go over to the next clip that kind of blows that right out of the water if we're talking about costs.
I just got the bill for my daughter's NICU stay. Do you guys want to know how much it is? Do you want to converse, have a conversation about the price? $738,360 freaking dollars. Almost $1 million. And then I decided to take a look through the itemized bill because they sent every single little thing that they charged for. And I swear there's things that they didn't do. And I swear there's things that they're overcharging for. For example, I noticed on the bill that there is a little tiny tube of Aquaphor that they gave me that I actually still have. $25. $25 for a tiny tube of Aquaphor that I thought the nurse was just giving me to be cute and give it for free. No, ma'am. They made sure to charge every single little thing. Damn, like that is crazy.
Another example here, how long was she in for? Our daughter was in the NICU for 3 weeks and ours was $147,000. These costs are brutal. The creator responded, still waiting for her bill to hit her insurance. Imagine getting that bill and not having any insurance. Well, that's exactly what we're gonna see in the next clip.
Okay, you guys, you'll never believe it, but my baby is a few days past 3 months old and I got the hospital bill. They didn't let me have my baby for free. They did send me the bill finally. She's a few days past 3 months old, and now I got the bill. It's actually on my phone, which is what I'm talking to right now, so I can't show you. But, all right, we double checked the numbers, and drum roll, please. $16,075.86. That was cheaper than my car, so that's cool. Only by a few $1,000s, but that's cool. If you're new here, I don't have insurance, and I was just waiting for the bill to see what I owed to have my 4th baby in the hospital. I was in the hospital from 9:30 at night, had the baby 6:30 the next morning, and then I was there until 11 o'clock the next day. That's how much it cost me in Kansas to have a baby without insurance.
So there you go. That was Kansas. Another $16,000. No insurance. Got to pay that all. I mean, if you've watched my videos, I've talked about wanting a big family, knowing that it's going to cost quite a bit of money, but watching all of these experiences really does start to freak me out, honestly.
I was calling because I'm moving to the area this month with my 10-month-old, and I was wondering what your availability looks like for the infant room.
We have a big transition coming this summer, but we're pretty booked. So we're looking at like 12 to 14 months for our wait list.
So what is the price point for full-time?
So we're looking at $2,200 a month for infants, and that's up to 18 months. Once they reach 19 months, then it's a toddler tuition, and that's $2,000 a month.
Okay, thanks so much for the information. I appreciate it.
And another set of the same type of comments. Meanwhile, the workers are getting paid minimum wage. 20,000 likes. $2,000 a month for childcare is a joke. Why is the birthing rates declining? And I mean, I could go on and on with these examples. I found so many of them in such a short period of time looking this up. So if you have any of your experiences, put it in the comments down below. But that's all I got for you guys today. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys later.